excited to welcome Charlie Sohne and Daniel Schloss to the podcast. They are the creators of Truth/Fiction, a comedy pilot that follows 16-year-old Emma as she navigates the indignities of adolescence. Through it all, Emma clings to the songs of the boy band Truth, and her love for the band leads her to join a group of fans who channel their devotion by writing /fiction about the boys. At the end of June, the show won Best Comedy Pilot and Best Actress in a Comedy at Series Fest in Denver. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Let's take a moment and have you two introduce yourselves to the audience.
I'm Daniel. I directed and produced the pilot. I was college roommates with Charlie, and we used to make silly movies in college, and basically doing the same thing now.
Making silly TV
shows now, yeah. Hopefully like a little bit of improvement since then, but
yeah. Just a touch. I'm Charlie. I'm the writer on the show, and 10 years of roommate-dom. So things have been good.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Housemate.
Oh yeah, housemate. Yeah. It's classier that way.
We were immediately attracted to the premise of the show with the writing group based on / because several authors of the gay romance genre started out writing /. So what inspired you guys to make a show revolving around that topic?
So I think it was about a year ago now that I read an article, I think it was on Slate, about a group of high school / writers who wrote / about One Direction. And I was really taken with it because for two reasons. One, I think it struck me that all the writers, I really related to them. They sort of felt like the people who I guess we were in high school, creative, offbeat, funny, self-aware kids who were I think maybe in a previous generation would have been writing off in the corner in isolation, but like because of the internet and because of Tumblr and that there's a whole community that they were engaging in, and that felt really cool to me. And then I think beyond that, I was really when I started reading, I hadn't read any / before starting the research for this project, and when I started reading the stories, I think particularly because, especially in the profile. It talked about sort of teenage girls who were writing /fiction, and I expected it to be funny, and like in a way that I would imagine girls writing about gay sex would be. But reading it, I actually found myself really moved, and particularly because at the heart, I think, of a lot of these stories. Is this sort of romantic idealism in that the best person for you to be with is like your best friend, only more, and I think that's what draws a lot of writers to the One Direction boys, is that they're so close and comfortable with each other, so particularly thinking about high school age kids writing that kind of fiction, it was kind of awesome because it stood in such contrast to like the way that I think of or remember high school relationships or high school sexual encounters, and the idea that these writers would have such a deep belief in love, probably in the face of like, what, let's say, high school boys are or what high school sexual interactions are, was really kind of awesome. And that was it.
Then Charlie wrote an awesome script, and I really wanted to make it, so we went from there.
You make it sound so easy.
It was a breeze.
It's nice to get to the point when you start sort of forgetting about some of the stuff that went into it, and sometimes there were. We did like a week of location scouting trips together, upstate New York and all over the place. And would have these like really, in-depth conversations about like what town is she from, or just all these little details. And it's kind of nice now at the other end when you're couple months, or almost a year away from that part of it, to sort of see what you made and start forgetting about some of those minutia that went into it. But it wasn't always easy, for sure.
Just so that our listeners know, Jeff and I have had the great pleasure of actually watching the first episode.
You're very lucky.
We went absolutely bananas. And after watching it, I was kind of pissed because I wanted episode 2.
Yeah.
I would binge this show so hard.
Oh, awesome.
I'm not even joking. I'm a little bit curious. What made you decide to shoot this as a single episode, as a pilot, really, instead of maybe like a short film? What was your thinking there?
Yeah, I think... well, I mean, I don't think we did a short film because from the beginning, I think Charlie had a lot of story to tell and we had a lot of ideas. So
okay, yeah.
For that reason, it made sense to be an episodic show. But we... I think we made it a pilot. I think sort of I wanted to throw. This was a very ambitious concept to shoot, even in terms of creating a boy band that feels like realistically the biggest boy band in the world, and creating fantasy scenes that are really cinematic and beautiful, and having her world. There's a lot of locations, a lot of characters for a 22-minute piece. Mm-hmm. So I think from my perspective, I think we both wanted to just make it. So sort of make something that would be a proof of concept that was really as close to what we would want it to be as it could be. And we want it to be something with a budget more than zero and with the ability to cast really good actors and, do epic boy band videos, etc. So if we had tried to sort of shoot a whole series ourselves, we just couldn't afford it. And the hope was maybe if we do one really, really good one that we can convince somebody to help us go forward with that.
Because it really it has a great look to it. I mean, it looks like what you'd see on HBO or Lifetime or whatever, right now.
Yeah, I mean, there were many, the crew to this was really fantastic, and I had more help on this than I've had in anything I've done before. Our production designer was this incredible woman who works on a lot of awesome TV shows and just did so much. This apartment actually Emma's apartment was sort of an abandoned apartment that she wallpapered from scratch. And we did a boy band photo shoot and put photos around the girls' room. And it really feels like a lived in place. And
right down to the dolls in the window.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a nice touch.
Yeah, that was her idea too.
Yeah.
And our cinematographer was incredible, and just he called in favors from all of his friends, and from everything. Our costume designer, we just it takes more than two people to put something like this together and make it look that good. So I'm really happy that it does feel like it could be on HBO soon. And
to note too, Charlie's writing partner for your musicals, because you also write musicals.
Yes.
Helped you, collaborated with you on the boy band songs in the show.
Yeah. And I mean, that was so fun for us too. I should say, Tim Rosser wrote the music. And, I've been working with him we've been writing shows together, I think for about 10 years as well now, or somewhere around there. But it was a completely unique challenge to write boy band songs. We had no idea what we were doing. And so actually what he did first is he wrote, we wrote 17 different song snippets of
17?
Yeah, it was 17. And so it was each were a minute long, and it was, some hook with a couple of verses. And we just sent them out to friends, and we were which one, we polled people. We were which sounds like a catchy boy band song to you? And so that's how we ended up with Baby It's You. And that's when we brought on this phenomenal producer, Luke Molman, who really did a lot of the music, collaborated with him on making that song feel like a radio pop song. And then Dear Caroline, which is the other song in the episode, sort of came very late, actually, when after screening the episode for a couple of people, the feedback that we kept getting is because we
Yeah,
use
they only have one boy band song.
yeah, we use "Baby It's You" at like every cue, and they were like, "You probably should have another song in there." So then
But yeah, it's awesome to, even after walking out of the screening at Series Fest, there are a couple people like humming that tune, which is, you know, and even or after watching the trailer. So, you know, I think the dream, you know, if we can do a season of this or something, and we'll have at least one song per episode, and you know, have a whole album by the end of it or something.
Sure, and get your iTunes download immediately right after the show.
Here we go. We're plugging it now.
What was your process to try to find the tone? Because to me, and you may have a different thought on this, but like Emma's reality seemed very, it harkened almost back to My So-Called Life to me, and this place that she was in. And then you get these hyper reality scenes of the Slash that is so hot and so energetic and so, you know, intense.
Yeah.
It's funny, actually, a lot of people were comparing it to My So-Called Life in tone, and I actually grew up without cable TV in the 90s and had never seen it. So I watched all of My So-Called Life after having shot this, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a really good show, and there are some ways, even though that wasn't intentional. But I mean, Charlie can talk about it from like the writing point of view and what he was trying to do. I think it definitely was something where there are these like three physical worlds of like the boy band video and the Emma's reality and the fantasies, and we did want them to have like different vibes, and so there was a question of making sure that all worked together. And you know, I think when they're connected well, and when we take each part really, you know, sort of, I directed the boy band music video like I'm directing a boy band music video, and then her world was just trying to be true to the character's journey and what they're going through. And the fantasies are trying to sort of, in a cinematic way, you know, sort of make those stories come to life. And I'm pleasantly, I'm pleased that it works as tonally well as it does, because that was certainly a concern, you know, in the shooting. But
I think from a writing perspective, it was also sort of important, because you're right that is a balance. But I think that as long as the fantasy sequences are emotionally motivated, it's as long as the fantasy sequences are telling the same story as the hyper-realist sort of teen drama at the center of it, that you know, Emma discovers these fantasy sequences, and it is about enjoying the fantasy sequences, but it's also about Emma's sexual awakening and discovering of this whole world that she had been not aware of. And so I think, and that's something that we talk about too for future episodes, is that I think that as long as everything is written, even the most over the top stuff is written in a true to character way and is introduced for character reasons, I think you go along for that ride in maybe a way that you wouldn't if it was more just sort of like, oh, and here are the fantasy sequences, and we're just enjoying them on that level, I think.
What I was taken by is that in a relatively short period of time, the episode is like, what, 22 minutes?
Yeah.
I think what was really amazing is that you, in such a compact period of time, you really drilled down to and explored what fandom is all about, and then using the creativity of the Slash fiction to explore her, you know, essentially her sexual awakening.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really, really well done. Because sometimes, you know, when you try to tell someone, you know, what Slash is, if they've never heard of it, it's kind of like, you know, it's like, well, you know, it's real life people having sex, or it's Kirk and Spock's getting it on, or it's sort of awkward and weird to explain. But I think in this episode, you really you explain it and put it forth in an intelligent and very earnest and honest way.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think it was very important to both of us that I think the easy thing to do sometimes when I think it's easy to look at a subculture that you don't understand and distance yourself from it and sort of give it a broad wash of like, oh, isn't this strange and different from my own experience? And I think that particularly, I mean, given that, I don't know, when we looked at the community and the kind of writing that was going on, it just felt like what we wanted to do. Like one thing, if we could, with this show, if we could, introduce Slash to a wider audience in a way that actually, you're right, like it explains what it is and explains why it's valuable and how it's, how it is. Like one thing that you said in an interview once is that it's a lot more. I mean, if a lot of the writing is more progressive. Like it's kind of funny that people got introduced to like erotic fan fiction through 50 Shades of Grey because like comparatively, like a lot of the stuff that's on the internet is incredibly progressive and it's really cool and it's the kind of stuff that people don't publish enough. So
yeah, I had someone come up to me actually after a screening and said like, I'm a straight dude who like never heard of this, and I was strangely like really into this teen girl discovering gay sex fantasies. I was like, that's great, like, and I think and I've always Charlie's got an incredible ability to like take ideas that always at the beginning that sound like, oh, how is that gonna work? How are you gonna understand that and make them like amazingly, earnest human stories, with also, fair degree, some humor and fun. So,
and that kind of segs to a question I had. What did your actors think of this show as you started casting and putting the script in front of them? Because not only is there the teenage My So-Called Life sort of thing to it, but then you've got the boy band doing boy band stuff, but also these really hot scenes at the same time, and it all meshes together into this package.
Yeah, we had an amazing casting director helping find some of these actors, and from the beginning, I think she made the script available to everybody just because we didn't want anyone coming into audition who wasn't going to be comfortable with any of that, and so all the people we got were really into the story, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think both the cast was incredibly professional, and I think the way that you ran the set was very careful, and there was always an open dialogue and communication, particularly with the sex scenes, because I think we did really luck out. Everyone was very professional and comfortable, and there was no the scenes were very choreographed.
Yeah, I've never done scenes like that before, but in certain ways, those were the easiest days because everybody is like over prepared because it could be sensitive, so everybody talks about it beforehand, and it's not as sexy on set as it comes off in the final product with the music and the close-ups and all of that stuff. But yeah, that stuff went off without a hitch.
Who do you see as the primary audience for the show?
Well. First, the straight dude who you met. I think, and I'm so bad with this stuff because like my answer to all of these questions is always like me because I wrote it and I really like it.
I think everyone has come of age and everybody has had some first experience or some awkwardness, and so in that way, like, I do feel like it's universal in a lot of ways. We've talked about, obviously, certain audiences are probably going to be immediately hear the concept and be more into it.
Like gay men, women. I think the mix of like people also who have a bit of pop.
People who like pop music.
Yeah, like a bit of a pop culture.
People who would watch My So-Called Life now and be nostalgic about it.
Yes, yeah. I think that is really true, and so I think that the good thing about the show, hopefully, is that there are different access points for different people, that everyone can be on board with his journey. But then also, as we expand out with the show, and over the course of the season, we get to explore the other members of the group. There's, there are different personalities and will be different ways in for different people. because I think one question that we get a lot from people outside of the community is, well, why would high schoolers like that write slash? And like, the answer is there are 5 million answers, and we
Why
can't.
not?
Yeah. And so, but at least when we get to explore the group a little bit more, we can also, Emma has a very definite reason why she writes or why she's come to the community. Kara does, and I think when we start to see the other characters, they will have their own perspectives on that, and I think that'll broaden the show for people too.
Yeah, Magnus, who's a actor who came out with me at Series Fest, called these like sexual fairy tales, which makes a lot of sense to me. That every kids learn all sorts of morals through fairy tales or through fables, and this is kind of the same thing, and they're actually quite good lessons.
You mean in slash fiction?
In slash
the stories?
Yeah, within the stories that as the girls write and read these stories, sort of helping them understand the things that are going on in real life.
Without sabotaging the shopping around that you're doing, where would you like to see this series end up, or like what are your top choices?
Well, do you want to
Go for it?
Yeah, I think that it's been an interesting experience for us because a lot of it is a learning process for us about what different outlets are looking for, and B, what outlets are going to long-term support the show, because that's actually, I think, more of a concern for us is that we don't want to have to move the show far away from the center of what it is or the story that we wanted to tell. Clearly over the course of getting something from an independent pilot to being distributed, there may have to be changes or rethinking some things. But I think that it's sort of been important for us in taking these meetings, hearing what people think the core of the story is and what in it they like about it a lot, and then sort of from there deciding, like, can we be collaborators on this? Is this the right way to move forward? Because I do think we're fairly specific in a way of like who we think these people are and what we think is the reason to tell a story about a slash fiction writers group.
I mean, the exciting slash scary thing, we're in this like new era where people are making independent pilots, or where web series, broad city, high maintenance, all these, are starting to be picked up by major networks, which is sort of why we could do this and why we can hope to go on with it, in that way. This is all like brand new within the last year or two, kind of. And so there are a number, I think, there are sort of options like from cable networks to like newer online channels or digital outlets that are popping up, and we're kind of learning all about that right now as we go. But I think it's, I think when we have conversations with these places, you can sort of start to understand what their audience is and what they're looking for from shows that they're developing. And there are a number of options, and some of them like seem very different from each other, and we're, definitely depending on where it lands. We'll see. It's all very exciting.
Just out of curiosity, how long have you been on this particular journey, from the initial idea to pre-production to shooting to all the way up to recently you were at Series Fest?
When did you get the idea?
I think it was about a year ago that I got the general idea to write a story about a slash fiction writer, and that went through 4 completely different attempts at what the story would be before I think I even showed anyone the script. Like, I wrote 4 different, and I just hated everything I was doing. And and then the idea of because I think it was originally it was about a girl who had just graduated from college, a little bit more of an interaction between her and the boy band up front. And it was, she worked for either, the label or the manager. And there were, and everything felt a little plastic or like not realistic.
You had sort of the current version of the script in August, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
And Charlie applied to Austin Film Festival with the script, and it was a finalist there. Which actually he went to the festival and came back the morning or the night before we started shooting.
Oh yeah,
So I think I knew we made the decision to really do it around September, and then we're looking for a casting director to help us start that, and really cast it in October and November. Started shooting the boy band stuff late October. Shot the rest of it in November, across 8 or 9 days. And so I guess we were doing location scouting and pre-planning also in September, October.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out the crew and all this stuff. And then it was a whirlwind. And then sort of I edited it mostly in December, January. And then sort of we had a decent rough cut by January, and sort of the last 5% drags on for a couple months as we recorded this full orchestral score for the fantasy scenes, which was, we both went to Oberlin College, and I actually went back there and got a 30-piece student orchestra to do that part of it. So that happened in February, and then sort of just the last tweaks of sound design and showing it to people and recording the second boy band song, as Charlie said. So I was also doing a couple other jobs because I was completely out of money at that point. Sort of final touches in May, right before Series Fest, really.
A year is not bad at all for this.
Yeah, it was even 8 months, 9 months.
Yeah.
And we could have, if we had been working on it full time all the time, it probably could have been less than that.
Sure.
But it was about a year. It's crazy to. I don't know, does that feel like a long time ago or not that long ago?
No, I don't think so. It's the quickest anything's happened for me.
Yeah.
So,
How far out do you have the series mapped?
Just the first season, so the first 10 episodes, and which we're flexible on, both in the number of episodes that we tell it in, but and obviously the story, but yeah, as of now, our main preference would be to have a 10 episode first season.
And that seems fairly standard these days, the way cable and online shows work.
Yeah,
so
it felt
Netflix and stuff.
Yeah, it felt right for this kind of show, it sort of was comprehensible enough that you could basically tell one giant arc over the course of the season. So you didn't have to do these little sort of shuffling things around on the chessboard and what's the turn this, but at the same time it gave enough breathing room to really feel like we could flesh everyone out and really tell the story. So.
Are there plans to get the pilot out for people to see while you're working on getting it out to series?
Not quite yet. I think we want to. So we are talking to a bunch of production companies and soon hopefully some networks. And while that happens, it's prudent not to release it publicly. Build up that that desire to see it hopefully, and if enough people then go begging the networks to pick us up.
Who should we be writing letters to?
Yeah, just
we'll give home telephone numbers.
Everybody, yeah. But we, I guess I'll use this opportunity to plug our email list on our website, truth/fiction.com, and we've got a Facebook page, truth/fiction, and our Twitter handle is truth/fic. So those are ways, we're sending out updates and releasing also behind the scenes pictures and all sorts of things. So if you follow us there, you'll be the first to know as we also may play in a couple more festivals over the next few months. So we'll let you know if we're in a city close to you, and that's the way to really see it before we get our huge network deal.
And we know you won a couple of awards at Series Fest. What was the reaction to your two screenings, right? I imagine it must have been pretty good to snag the awards.
It was awesome. We'd never shown it. Like we've in our living room, we've screened it for like 3 to 5 people to get notes. But I'd never seen it with more than that. And all of a sudden to have like 60, 70 people react to a joke or a shocking moment or whatever it is awesome. And every audience like sort of reacts differently. And I was terrified, like, what if, no one laughs or no one, but the audience was great. And sort of as the festival went on, more and more people were coming up to me and like telling me what they liked about it. And that was really awesome. So it's obviously not, it's awesome to like see it on a huge screen, which is not how anyone will see it because it's a TV show.
Right.
But if you do get a chance to meet us at a film festival, it is kind of cool to see it on a huge TV.
So in this journey, what's been some of the best Slash that you've read? If you had to direct people towards Slash, where would you send them?
Okay, I need to look up the screen names of the authors, but I think for me there was this great piece of Larry Fick, which is Lewis and Harry. That's the pairing that is, I think, the most popular because they're the
from One Direction.
Yeah, and it's an alternate universe story where Harry multi-chapter story where Harry is a team manager for Manchester United football team, and Lewis is like the star player. And it's really that was one of the stories where I was like, it actually didn't have a ton of sex in it. It had some, and the sex writing was good, but the emotions were. I mean, I was sitting on the subway, like scrolling through a PDF on my iPhone, like crying, and, like being like completely embarrassing. So I think that was the one that really stood out to me. But there were a bunch. The problem is a lot of them take place at boarding schools, and they also like those sort of like start to blend together a little bit. So I can't really remember. Like everything that took place at like a college or a boarding school all sort of seems like one giant story to me right now.
Yeah, a lot of the writing is it's just really, really good writing. I guess that's what I didn't know, expect. I didn't know what to expect, I suppose. But I'm actually halfway through that 200-page novel right now. But also, it's quite good.
Yeah, if you want to send me the link to that, I'll put it in our show notes so our audience can find it.
Absolutely,
because that would be cool. I have to say that of the fantasy sequences, I guess it was a World War I trench.
Yes, yeah.
Something about that one that was the one for me of the ones that were in the show.
Good. Oh, I'm glad. I like that one too. The actors in that shoot day was particularly fun. They sort of started making up sort of when the cameras weren't rolling this whole dialogue scene that was basically these two like boy banders who weren't prepared for war, like sitting in this trench being like, where are my snacks? like I'm not getting any reception, Verizon. So it was a fun day.
The fantasies are they're just like really fun for every reason, I think, to like, I'm sure they're fun to write, and they're fun to shoot, and they're fun, or maybe they're sort of hard to find locations or build sets for, but after that happens, that's like just very fun. I don't know. I'm excited to do many more of those.
Yes, absolutely.
One more time before we leave, where can people keep up with what's going on with Truth/Fiction?
So our website is truth/fiction.com. You can also go to facebook.com/truth/fiction, twitter.com/truth/fic. A lot of slashes when I add. and Instagram.com/truth/fiction. And there's an email list on our website. So whichever your preferred method of having information
Delivered
to you, we've got it covered.
Cool.
So yeah, check us out, and hopefully more soon.
Hopefully, we're definitely on your email list, and when you get that deal, come on back and talk to us some more.
We will.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, of
Awesome.
course. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.